Hello, Defense Attorney Mark Rosenfeld here. I want to take a couple minutes and talk about the Department of Motor Vehicles and specifically re-examinations. We all know that the DMV issues driver's licenses and keeps track of who the drivers are on the road. What a lot of people don't know is that the Department of Motor Vehicles can re-evaluate or re-examine somebody and take their driver's license, either suspension or revocation, if they are not safe to drive. So one of the departments that the DMV has is a driver safety office where they will do re-examinations to determine whether or not someone is safe to be on the road. Now, there are different types of re-examinations. I'm talking about physical and mental re-evaluations. So if somebody has a physical disability or a mental disability which impairs their ability to drive, they cannot drive safely because of their physical or mental condition, the DMV can suspend the driver's license. So how this happens can be a few different ways that it gets started. The re-examination process can get started by the DMV receiving a letter. Sometimes it's a family member that's concerned about an elderly parent and they mail a letter to the DMV, and the DMV then starts the re-examination process. Another way is that the person may be involved in an accident, there may be a report from a doctor, there may be concerned citizens that see the person driving, take down the license plate and report them. And these can be a regular re-examination where we have a little bit of time to prepare for a hearing, which I'll talk about more in a moment. Another type of P&M, or physical and mental re-evaluation, is called a priority re-examination. Now, a priority re-examination has to be done within 5 days, and it moves very quickly, and it's somewhat unrealistic because it is going to test quite a bit of knowledge and skill in a very short period of time, and the person who is facing this priority re-exam doesn't really have time to get ready for it, and they need to as soon as possible. Now, you do have a right to an attorney to help you through a re-examination process. However, the attorney cannot do everything for you. Ultimately, it is the person who received the re-examination notice, the person who's being examined, who needs to be able to perform, answer questions, pass skill tests, and ultimately get the license back. But it's important to have an attorney on your side to let you know what to expect, when to expect it, and how the process is going to work. So with a regular re-examination, we may get a notice in the mail because the DMV was notified by somebody somewhere along the line, medical, family, neighbor, something. A priority re-examination, which happens within the 5 days, is usually a notice received by the Department of Motor Vehicles from a law enforcement agency or police officer. The police officer fills out paperwork, sends it to the DMV, and that triggers the re-examination. It doesn't have to be that the person got a ticket or even that the person was involved in an accident. Many times it is. The person gets pulled over for driving erratically, they get issued a ticket, and the officer also does a re-examination notice. Other times there's an accident, and then because of the accident, the person may be confused or shaken up, and the officer arrives on the scene, sees this appearance, and sends the re-examination, and then we have to move very, very quickly. So with the priority re-exam, we've got to get everything in order within 5 days before we actually go into the DMV. So it's important to get an attorney involved early to figure out exactly what type of hearing it is, where the hearing is going to be, and what needs to be done to prepare for the hearing to get the best possible result. Now, these DMV hearings are done at a driver safety office. The driver safety office is not the regular DMV where you go to take a regular test. You may end up there for part of it, but the driver safety office deals with special evaluations, they deal with DUI, administrative actions, and they deal with the physical and mental reevaluations as well. So we need to get a request for a hearing filed right away, otherwise they will suspend the license or possibly revoke it. Once we contact the Department of Motor Vehicles Driver Safety Office, we demand a hearing and we request paperwork so we can know what it is that we're facing and how to best prepare for the hearing. Now, the hearing is conducted somewhat informally. It's not like a judge in a courtroom. It's conducted in an office with a hearing officer, and the hearing officer is trained by the Department of Motor Vehicles. They're not doctors, they're not lawyers, they're not judges. They're DMV employees that have some experience and training in physical and mental reevaluations. So we need to make sure that we get them the right information and paperwork before the hearing, and then perform whatever is required in the hearing. Now, when we're dealing with the Department of Motor Vehicles hearing, they will go through several different phases, and sometimes they do them a little differently, but usually what the Department of Motor Vehicles is going to do when we have the hearing is the first thing they're going to do is an eye examination, where they have you do the eye chart. It may be on a machine or it may be an actual eye chart, but they want to check the vision, because if the person can't pass a vision test, there's no reason to go any further with an examination, and they want to minimize the amount of time and effort that they're putting in if they don't need to. Following a visual examination, the hearing officer will also often have a written or legal examination given. This is a multiple choice questionnaire where the person has to go through and demonstrate that they have knowledge of the rules of the road, and they have to get a certain number right to make sure they pass, just like the regular written test. You may be able to have some assistance as far as having questions read to you, but it's usually not a great sign if you're asking for help with reading of questions on a re-examination. So first they'll usually do the visual, the eye test, then they'll do the written or legal test, and after that they'll move into a face-to-face hearing where your attorney can be present with you, but the questions are going to be for you. You're going to need to be able to answer, about your driving history and current events and your knowledge of the law. The hearing itself will be face-to-face, sometimes done over the phone, but usually it's face-to-face because they want to see how the person is interacting and responding, and they will cover everything from driving history, where they will ask questions about your driving history. How long? Have you been in any accidents? They'll ask you questions about current events. They want to know whether you're aware of date, time, location, what's happening, whether or not you're under doctor's care, if so, medication, and treating physician information. And we need to prepare this stuff. Oftentimes, before we go into a hearing, we will have you gather documents, get your treating physician or neurologist, whoever it is you're working with, to fill out the right paperwork to get the information to the hearing officer to make the best possible decision, hopefully in your favor. The face-to-face meetings may last 15-20 minutes, and if you do well and you move on to the next phase of a re-examination, it may be necessary to schedule a driving examination, to have you actually back in the car with a driving grader at the field office, which would be like the regular DMV. And you may have a couple of days to get prepared for that. Now, after the visual test, the eye test, the written test, the in-person interview, we'll move on to the driving test, and then the hearing officer will ultimately make a decision and mail out the decision to us. There's a couple of different things that the hearing officer can do. They can take no action, which is what we want, just let you keep your license and continue to drive with no action. They may schedule a further re-examination. They do a calendar or a future date. They may require you they may put you on probation, where they schedule a further hearing down the road, 6 months, maybe a year. Or they may put you on probation and say that if there's any changes, you have to report it. They may just put you on probation, tell you don't pick up any new violations. They also can not just do nothing, which would be a set aside or no action or probation. They can suspend the license until you're able to prove that things are changed and you are able to safely drive. or they can revoke the license, which says they don't believe that you're ever going to be able to get your driver's license back because of your physical or mental condition. So there's a lot that goes on in a physical and mental reevaluation hearing. It's important to get a lawyer involved as soon as possible. As soon as you think there may be a concern, as soon as you get notice from the DMV, because we need to find out what type of hearing, who the hearing officer is, where the hearing is going to be, and start to gather the documents and prepare. There are things that can be done legally, factually, to prepare and get the best possible outcome. So hopefully nobody ever has a physical or mental problem that prevents them from driving, but if there is a concern about it or you do receive notice, contact a local attorney as soon as possible to get help with someone who's experienced and knows what to do. If you've got questions about driving related matters, DMV hearings in the Southern California area in Los Angeles, feel free to give me a call. I'm happy to discuss this with you on the phone, and if I can help out, great, but I want to make sure you get good, accurate, correct information. Once again, my name is Mark Rosenfeld. I'm a defense attorney. I represent people at the DMV, and you can reach me directly at 310-424-3145, 310-424-3145. Give me a call if you have any questions. Take care. Be safe.